If you're over 60 and banking in the UK, what I'm about to share could directly affect your ability to access your own money. Major changes are happening right now that most people haven't even heard about yet, and if you're not prepared, you could find yourself locked out of your account or unable to make withdrawals when you need them most. Some pensioners are already discovering they can't get their cash when they need it, and it's causing real hardship. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's changing, why it matters, and most importantly, what you need to do to protect your access to your hard-earned savings. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Senior Secure UK. If this is your first time joining us, this channel is dedicated to helping you navigate financial changes and protect your money, especially for those of us in our retirement years or approaching them. I'm here to cut through the confusion and give you clear, practical information you can actually use. Today we're tackling something really important that's been causing quite a bit of confusion and serious concern among older savers across the UK. Over the past year, banks have been rolling out significant changes to how we access our money, particularly when it comes to withdrawals. These changes are affecting everyone, but they're having a particularly big impact on those over 60 who may be more comfortable with traditional banking methods. I've been getting so many messages and questions about this from viewers like you, people who've suddenly found themselves unable to withdraw their own money the way they've done for decades. So I wanted to create a comprehensive guide that explains everything you need to know about these changes and how to navigate them. Now, before we dive in, I want to make something crystal clear. These changes aren't about banks trying to steal your money or prevent you from accessing it. However, they are changing the game quite dramatically, and if you're not aware of what's happening, you could face some very frustrating and even distressing situations. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's talk about what's really going on with bank withdrawals in the UK. The first major change that's affecting people across the country is the dramatic reduction in bank branches and ATM machines. If you've noticed that your local branch has closed or your nearest cash machine has been removed, you're not imagining things. Since 2015, the UK has lost over 5,000 bank branches. That's more than half of all branches that existed just a few years ago. For many people over 60, especially those in rural areas or smaller towns, this means the nearest branch might now be 10, 15, or even 20 miles away. But it's not just about branches closing. The number of free-to-use ATMs has also dropped significantly. Many of the remaining cash machines now charge fees for withdrawals, sometimes as much as £2 or £3 per transaction, and some have been removed entirely from communities altogether. This shift is happening because banks say fewer people are using cash and more people are banking online. While that might be true for some demographics, it's creating real hardship for older people who prefer or need to use cash for their daily transactions. The reality is that many people over 60 grew up in an era where cash was king, where you went to the branch to handle your banking, and where having a relationship with your bank manager actually meant something. You knew the staff by name, they knew you, and banking felt personal and secure. These branch closures aren't just inconvenient. They're fundamentally changing how an entire generation interacts with their money and destroying that sense of security many people relied upon. Now let's talk about withdrawal limits, because this is where things get really interesting and where many people are getting caught out. Banks have been implementing and tightening daily withdrawal limits, particularly for ATM transactions. Most banks now have daily limits ranging from £250 to £500 for cash machine withdrawals. Some banks have even lower limits. If you need to withdraw more than that, you'll typically need to go into a branch, use multiple days to get the full amount, or make special arrangements in advance. But here's where it gets tricky and where people are running into serious problems. Some banks are now requiring advance notice for large cash withdrawals, even if you're going into a branch in person. If you want to withdraw several £1,000s in cash, you might need to give your bank anywhere from 24 hours to several days' notice, and in some cases, even up to a week. The exact amount that triggers this requirement varies by bank, but it's typically anything over £2,000 to £5,000. Why are banks doing this? They say it's for security reasons and to ensure they have enough cash on hand at branches. In reality, branches now carry far less cash than they used to because of security concerns and the declining use of physical currency. This means that if someone walks in wanting to withdraw £10,000 in cash without notice, the branch might not actually have that much available. They have to order it in specially. For people over 60 who might need larger sums of cash for legitimate reasons, perhaps to pay a tradesperson who offers a discount for cash, to buy a used car, to give a gift to a grandchild, or to help a family member in an emergency, this can be extremely frustrating and even distressing. You've worked hard for your money, it's sitting in your account, but suddenly there are barriers to accessing it the way you want to when you need it. Another significant change involves identification requirements, and this is catching many people completely off guard. Banks have dramatically increased their verification procedures, and this affects withdrawals both in-branch and online. If you're going into a branch to make a withdrawal, you'll need to bring photo identification. A passport or driving license is usually required, and in most cases, these are the only forms of identification that will be accepted. For many older people who don't drive anymore and don't have a current passport because they're not traveling, this creates an immediate problem. You might arrive at your bank with your checkbook, your bank card, and even utility bills to prove who you are, only to be told these aren't sufficient. Some banks will accept other forms of identification, like a bus pass with a photo or a national identity card, but it's not consistent across all institutions, and many won't accept these at all. This identification requirement is part of broader anti-money laundering regulations and security measures that banks are legally required to enforce, but it's causing real difficulties for people who simply don't have the required documents readily available. I've heard from viewers who've been banking with the same institution for 40 or 50 years, yet they can't access their money without jumping through these new hoops. The push toward digital banking represents perhaps the biggest change of all, and it's the one causing the most anxiety among our viewers. Banks are strongly encouraging, and in some cases almost forcing, customers to use online and mobile banking. Many services that used to be available in-branch or over the phone now require you to use the bank's app or website. This includes checking balances, transferring money, setting up payments, and even arranging certain types of withdrawals. For people over 60 who didn't grow up with smartphones and computers, this digital transition can feel overwhelming and even intimidating. Learning to use banking apps, remembering multiple passwords, dealing with two-factor authentication, understanding security warnings, and navigating online security can be genuinely challenging. Yet banks continue to push aggressively in this direction because it's far cheaper for them to have customers self-serve online than to maintain branches and phone support staff. The banks save money, but the burden falls on customers who aren't comfortable with technology. The security measures themselves have become increasingly complex. Two-factor authentication, biometric logins using fingerprints or face recognition, security questions, one-time passcodes sent to your phone, authenticator apps, these are all designed to protect your money, and they do work when implemented properly. But they also add multiple layers of complexity that can make simple transactions feel like solving a complicated puzzle. If you don't have a mobile phone, or if you're not comfortable receiving text messages with security codes, or if you struggle with the technology, you may find yourself completely locked out of certain banking features. There's also been a significant change in how banks handle cash deposits, which indirectly affects withdrawals and your overall banking experience. Many banks have removed the ability to deposit cash with a human cashier at branches, instead requiring customers to use specific machines or post office services. These machines can be confusing to use, especially the first time, and they sometimes reject notes that are slightly worn or folded. This fragmentation of banking services means you might need to go to different locations for different transactions, which is particularly difficult for people with mobility issues or those who rely on public transport. The post office has become an increasingly important partner in providing banking services, especially in areas where bank branches have closed down. Most major UK banks have agreements with the post office, allowing customers to make basic transactions there, including withdrawals. However, there are limits to what you can do at the post office, and not all banking services are available. The daily withdrawal limit at post offices is typically lower than what you could get at your own bank's branch, often around £300 to £500 depending on your bank. For anything more complex, you'll still need to find your actual bank branch. So, what does all of this mean for you practically in your day-to-day life? If you're over 60 and you haven't been paying close attention to these changes, you could find yourself in a genuinely difficult situation. Imagine needing to access a significant amount of cash for an emergency. perhaps to pay for urgent home repairs or medical expenses, only to discover you need to give several days' notice and the money isn't immediately available. Or arriving at your bank branch with your checkbook and bank card as identification, only to be told these are no longer accepted and you're sent away without your money. The good news is that once you understand these changes, you can adapt and plan accordingly. The key is knowing what your specific bank requires and preparing in advance, rather than being caught off guard when you urgently need access to your money. Knowledge is power, and being prepared means you stay in control of your finances. Let me share some practical steps you can take right now to protect your access to your funds. First, and most importantly, contact your bank directly and ask about their specific withdrawal policies. Find out what the daily limits are for both ATM and branch withdrawals, what amounts require advance notice and how much notice they need, and what identification they'll accept. Every bank is slightly different, so don't make assumptions based on what you hear from friends or what you read online. Get the information directly from your own bank and write it down for reference. Second, make absolutely sure you have valid photo identification. If your driving license has expired or your passport is out of date, consider renewing them even if you don't plan to drive or travel internationally. These documents have become essential for banking, and having them current will save you enormous hassle and potential embarrassment. The cost of renewing is worth the peace of mind and access to your money. Third, consider gradually adapting to digital banking, even if it feels uncomfortable or intimidating at first. You don't have to do everything online, but having basic online access to your account can be incredibly useful for checking balances, viewing transactions, and managing your money between branch visits. Many banks offer tutorials, guides, or even one-on-one sessions to help older customers learn to use their digital services. Take advantage of these resources. They're usually free, and the staff are generally patient and understanding. Ask a trusted family member or friend to help you get started if you're feeling overwhelmed. Fourth, plan ahead for any large withdrawals you might need. If you know you'll need a substantial amount of cash for any reason, contact your bank well in advance. It's better to give them a week's notice than to show up needing the money immediately and being told to come back later. This is especially important if you're planning major purchases or expecting to help family members financially. Fifth, familiarize yourself with the post office banking services available to you. Find out which services your bank offers through the post office and keep this as a backup option, especially if your nearest bank branch is far away. Visit the post office and ask them to explain what you can do there with your specific bank account. Finally, and this is important, don't be afraid to complain if you feel these changes are making banking unreasonably difficult for you. Banks have legal obligations to treat customers fairly, including older and vulnerable customers. If you're being denied reasonable access to your money, or if the bank isn't making appropriate accommodations for your circumstances, speak to the bank manager first. If that doesn't resolve things, escalate to their formal complaints department, and if necessary, contact the Financial Ombudsman Service who can investigate on your behalf. The banking landscape in the UK is changing rapidly, and these changes are having a real and significant impact on how people over 60 access their money. While banks argue these changes are about security, fraud prevention, and meeting customer demands for digital services, the reality is that many older customers feel left behind, frustrated, and sometimes even humiliated by the barriers now standing between them and their own funds. The most important thing you can do is stay informed and proactive. Don't wait until you're in an urgent situation to discover what your bank's policies are. Take the time now to understand the rules, get your documentation in order, and familiarize yourself with both traditional and digital banking options available to you. Being prepared means you maintain your independence and control over your finances. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Senior Secure UK for more content about managing your finances and navigating changes that affect your money. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Drop a comment below and let me know if you've experienced any frustrations with bank withdrawals or if you have any questions about these changes. I read every single comment and I'm here to help our community. Also, please share this video with friends and family members who might be affected by these changes. The more people who understand what's happening, the better prepared we'll all be. Knowledge shared is power multiplied. Thank you so much for watching Senior Secure UK. and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves and your money, and remember, you're not alone in navigating these changes.